All right, we are live at Powder7 World Headquarters in Golden, Colorado. Joel Gratz is here of OpenSnow. Joel, can you hear me?
I got you.
Right on. You're coming through loud and clear. So we'll give it a couple of minutes here. This is usually our most popular event here at the shop every season, every fall. We have Chasing Powder 101, Powder7 After Dark, and we pack a very small shop like a sardine can. And that's not ideal in the time of COVID. So COVID continues to suck, but we here at Powder7 learned Zoom and live YouTube so we could bring Joel back. So we're going to dive right in. Again, I'm Matt here at Powder7 World Headquarters in Golden, Colorado. This is Chasing Pow 101 with Joel Gratz. So you get to look at his wonderful face for a second while I talk about a couple of things, some housekeeping items. For one thing, Wolf Creek is open, at least for a few days, and everybody here at Powder7 is super stoked about that. I'm considering driving down myself 4.5 hours to ski there, but we'll get to that. We also just published the Powder7 2020-2021 Buyer's Guide. You can hit a link below this video on the Powder7 blog to see our top picks for all mountain skis, big mountain skis, powder skis, so on and so forth. We filmed them in this beautiful studio you see here at World Headquarters. And also, a fun other note pertinent to OpenSnow and Joel here is we're running a partnership where if you sign up for the newest OpenSnow product, which is the all access group subscription, you are automatically entered to win gear from Powder7. So you need to sign up by Saturday, 31st, Halloween, in order to be entered to win a kit from Smith. This is the IO Mag goggle. I won't take the lens off. It's super easy, but if I do it on camera, the camera curse will make me drop it. It'll be a mess. And then the Smith Vantage MIPS. Year in, year out, one of the best helmets in the sport. MIPS, super safe. So enter or sign up for OpenSnow. Joel, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what this new all access group subscription is about.
Yeah, I feel like I should launch into my infomercial voice for all the late night powder seekers that just can't sleep. Yeah. But yeah, for those of you who don't know about OpenSnow All Access, it's one of the primary ways that people support the site and get the most features and the most bang for the buck out of OpenSnow. It gives you longer range forecasts out to 10 days. Instead of the normal 5, and that will be especially important this year as we start to dial in on the storms in advance, so we can all kind of scramble and make reservations and figure out how to deal with skiing this year. We've got longer range hourly forecasts out to 3 days, and then we have a ton of awesome map layers that created to track storms using radar, forecast radar, snow depth. You can zoom into those map layers. Track snowfall kind of down to the resort, and we put the resorts and some backcountry areas right on those maps, so you're not kind of hunting and pecking on your phone to try to figure out, is that snow squall hitting your resort. It's really easy to track that, and a host of other features. We can get into that, but as Matt mentioned, we have 2 subscriptions. We just launched the group subscription, so for $39.99 you get 4 logins. It's just like a family plan for Netflix or Spotify, something like that, where you sign up for $39.99. You can share it with 3 other friends, so that you can make your friends a little less lazy. They can check out OpenSnow and make their own ski plans in addition to just texting you to figure out what to do. So that's a little bit about OpenSnow and the group plan.
Right on. Yeah, so again, if you're just joining us, Powder7 Live with Joel Gratz of OpenSnow. If you sign up for the OpenSnow All Access Group subscription by Saturday, you're entered to win a helmet and goggle combo from Smith from Powder7. So now we can dive into some Q&A. We've been soliciting questions all day from the Instagram universe. So we've got some of those. I grabbed some from our staffers here at Powder7. I thought if I read them off my phone, it would seem really authentic. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm also got to do a shout out to Steamboat Powder Cats, one of my favorite hats. It felt superstitious, like it'll bode well for POW this year if I wore this hat tonight. So Joel, speaking of ski and powder, but not making reservations to do it, have you skied Wolf Creek in this new storm, and are you going to?
Am I planning to ski Wolf Creek? As luck would have it, the weather gods have smiled upon me, and I was going to Durango anyway this weekend to see some family. So we are going to, my wife, when I say we, my wife, and myself and my 3-year-old son will be going down to Wolf Creek on Friday, tomorrow. And we're going to make some turns, probably mostly on the beginner hill with the little dude and a couple of straps helping him get down the mountain slowly. But yeah, we're going to check it out. And I heard from some friends that went on Wednesday that it was a fun, soft, early season day. And I mean, just something that I kind of like and I joke about is, Wolf Creek gets a storm, 2 feet of kind of thick powder, and like, yep, mountain's open. Cool. Here we go. Let's go. And I'm sure they take safety into account, and they're, obviously they have not opened up all their terrain, but it's just kind of fun in the age when everything is kind of micromanaged, just a little bit more Wild West down there, which is quite fun.
Bashing rocks is good for you if you don't plug your ACL. Right on. So this came from an Instagram user. What do you eat for breakfast on a powder day? What's your version of Wheaties?
My version of Wheaties is looking at weather models and making a forecast from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. I mean, it's true. During the winter, I run a lot on adrenaline. I do not drink coffee. I actually just hate the taste. We'll have some soda occasionally to get some caffeine. But for the most part, I'll go to bed much later than I should because I'm up watching the storm and super nervous and excited. I'll be up around 4 a.m. I'll spend about 2 hours making and writing the forecast. I'll maybe scarf down some cereal real quick for a few minutes and then out the door to go skiing. So mostly it's just snow adrenaline.
So is your family used to this neurotic program, or does it drive them crazy?
Oh no, this has been baked in since day one, since I met Lauren, who also loves to ski powder as much as I do, and all of our friends. So usually we're just crashing with friends in the mountains or at hotel rooms. So where it gets a little weird is when everybody, if you're in a hotel room, like everybody's going to get up at 6 o'clock to go get ready to ski, and I'm up at 4. So, like, what do? Do I go to the lobby? I mean, sometimes, to make my forecast, sometimes the lobby is locked. So a lot of times I'll try to find an out of the way spot so that the light from my computer when I'm sitting on the floor making a forecast doesn't wake everybody up. So, I mean, people, I think, picture me and OpenSnow like we have this gigantic weather center, like you see on the 6 o'clock news or something. And, there's all these green screens everywhere and banks of computers and monitors. I got a 15-inch MacBook Pro that I use at home or on the road. And half the time I'm sitting on the floor in a friend's house trying not to wake people up while I'm forecasting. So it's there's no weather center. Just have a computer and a bunch of data.
This sounds like a wonderful blend of startup and college.
Yeah, and have been at the business for 10 years and 39. So pretty far from both of those, but it still brings a lot of excitement. And we're all still super excited to ski. And all of my friends that I moved out to Colorado with 15 years ago from the East Coast, we get as excited now on a powder morning as we did when we moved out here. It's just a little trickier now because you got to figure out where to put the kids.
I don't have that problem yet.
Fair enough.
So what's your favorite pocket snack on the mountain?
Man, I wish I could be a role model for nutrition and hydration. I really do. It would probably serve me well, but I'm not because I'm usually running out of the house, super excited, totally amped up to go find powder. And it's usually midday when I stop and think, and oh my gosh, I haven't eaten, I haven't drank, but I'm going to take one more run and then I'm done anyway. So we'll go. If I have to say anything, the peanut butter filled Cliff Bars are ones that I really like because even in really cold weather, they get a little hard, but they don't get break your teeth hard, which is a problem with some of the snacks when it's really, really cold outside.
So what doesn't do that? What's that? Is pocket pickles. Have you ever had one?
I feel like you have.
I have. And we discussed it here at Powder7 on the Mix podcast with Alex Kaufman. And he loved it so much that he named the episode The Pickle. But anyway, a little bit more to the topic at hand. What are some of the key weather indicators that you look for that scream powder day? Yeah, so probably the best piece of advice I can give to people that are somewhat new to chasing powder, or even just as a reminder to powder seekers, is it's only half of the equation is only half of kind of what snow has fallen that night and that day.
a lot of the quality of the powder day happens in advance of that day. And over the previous few days, have there been storms? Has it stayed cold? Has the sun come out? Because the worst thing that can happen is you get all excited because you see a foot of snow in the forecast, but it hasn't snowed for 2 weeks previous to that. It's been warm, and then it's 12 inches on crust. And, yeah, it can still be kind of fun if you find shaded north aspects, but that's generally not what we're looking for. We're looking for soft on top of soft. So I would say that the number one thing I think of is a multi-day storm cycle. The one and done storms, yeah, they're fun. They're fun to post about, like, oh, we got a foot of snow. But they're usually not what creates the best conditions. It's usually, hey, we had 3 to 6 inches for one day, for 2 days, and then we get a 8 to 12 of really light blower pow on top of that. Those are the best conditions. I also like the best powder days when you can find out where people aren't going to be. So, because that's the other half of the equation, right? So if roads are going to be closed, possibly, and you can get there ahead of time, it's a weekday versus a weekend. If you're at a smaller local mountain versus a bigger mountain, all those things kind of play into it. So multifaceted, but really the weather conditions leading up to the powder day are usually some of the most influential in making it a day you remember.
Yeah. So stretching that scope out a little bit more, that's kind of like the what to do if you see a storm in the forecast 3 days to 5 days out. If you're looking to set up a trip, maybe you live out east and you want to come west, or maybe you're in the west and you want to go further west or to Canada.
Yeah.
What are some
You can get to Canada?
Oh, well, I can.
No.
I can't disclose how. No,
oh, man. All right. Well, take me with you.
What are some good tips for planning a trip further out to optimize your chances of hitting face shots, was how the question asker phrased it.
Yeah, for sure. So I'll preface the face shot question by, I'm a professional powder chaser, but I have a family and I'm running a business, so I can't chase every storm everywhere. There's a guy on our website, Powder Chaser Steve. He is a professional powder chaser and somehow has the motivation and energy to literally go anywhere at any time. He'll drive through the night, fly across anywhere. I mean, it's really remarkable, and I love to chase, but he puts me to shame. But I bring this up because even me, even him, we get skunked, right? This is not, even with the better technology we have today versus 10 or 20 years ago, you can still get skunked. So don't put I guess the first thing I would say is don't put too much pressure on yourself and think, oh my gosh, if we can just hit this storm, it's going to be the best day ever. It's going to be the best run ever. A lot of times it is. Most of the time, it's at least way more fun than staying home. And a few times, it sucks from a snow standpoint. Like, it's still really fun to go out with your friends or your family and go chase, but it just doesn't come together. So don't put too much pressure on yourself if it doesn't work, or thinking that, oh, it's on the edge and I don't know if I should go. Like, one, you should go because you're guaranteed to ski more powder than if you stay at home. But from a kind of breakdown, I would say we start looking for storms about a week to 10 days out. That's when we're just getting an inkling. Is there a storm even possible? So right now it's October 29th, just in case this is recorded. It's October 29th, and we just identified a storm coming probably close to Colorado around November 8th. So that's around 10 days or so. But it's way too soon to lock in plans. You go to Wolf, you go to Silverton, you go to Alta, you go to Steamboat, Monarch, I don't know, way too far out. It's in the 3 to 5 day window that things get a little bit more certain, that I start thinking about whose couch am I going to crash on? What's the best terrain around that area? Am I skiing backcountry? Am I skiing a resort? Kind of clearing the calendar. And then it's the couple days before, really 1 or 2 days before, I'm checking every model and checking every update. Obviously, I'm writing about this stuff on OpenSnow, and just trying to figure out if, is Silverton going to be better than Telluride or something like that. But at 1 to 2 days out, you've kind of usually locked in your area. And then I'd say the last thing is don't get paralysis by analysis, or whatever skier version of that is. Because I've been locked in this where I'm just sitting, looking at models and looking at updates and looking at hotels and looking at road camps. Like, should I go? Should I not go? I don't know. What happens if I go and it doesn't snow? That's good. Just go. just go. Go as much as you can, because actually the biggest secret to any type of chasing, and whether that's powder chasing or tornado chasing, is the people that go more often get the goods more often. So yes, you need to have all these strategies, to figure this stuff out, but don't hem and haw too much and then let yourself get talked into not going. Just go.
Yeah. So when a storm does fall flat, maybe, or underperform what you forecasted, how mad do the maddest OpenSnow users get?
Not as mad as me. So that's actually, this is why I do what I do, because I missed 15 years ago when I moved to Colorado, I missed 48 inches of snow at Steamboat in 48 hours. And I was, absolutely livid. I was an hour and a half away. Of course I would have gone if I would have known. So, that bred in me, okay, why does the forecast go wrong sometimes? What can I do to get better at this forecasting? So there is nobody that is more pissed off than me. Now, people try to get more pissed off than me, and they email those very pissed off thoughts to me. But I am, my wife can attest, it kind of ruins my mood for the day if I totally blow a forecast. And I know it for sure. But yeah, I get some hate mail for sure. But most of the time when I reply and the person realizes that an actual human just read, they're ranting and raving about whatever they were pissed off about, they mostly reply, "Oh, I know you can't control the weather. I'm so sorry. I just was really mad that it didn't snow much." Like, me too, man. Me too.
The cesspool of comments, hopefully not happening next to this video.
Hopefully, yeah. Exactly.
Well, the owner of Powder7, here's his shout out to Jordan Jones. You know that he has revealed that you have complete control over his emotions with your forecast.
Man. Fortunately or unfortunately, the weather models have complete control over my emotions as well. And a couple of secrets, I guess, for me are, if anything, I try to set expectations a little low on the forecast. So I'm really happy if a little more snow falls than is forecast. I'm not trying to sandbag, a day or totally blow a forecast, but there's a lot more ways for a storm to fall apart, then the probability of a storm falling apart is much greater than the probability of a storm coming together perfectly with every factor being aligned. So even when the 5-day, 4-day, 3-day, 2-day forecast looks good, I'm still on edge because usually storms try to throw a little bit of a wrinkle on there.
Yeah.
So setting expectations at medium, not low, but at medium is usually about the best way to go.
So this is kind of a two-parter that joins two questions we got from Instagram. So are the long-range models you use available on NOAA or just WeatherBell? And that kind of segues into some favorite websites, resources, apps that you would recommend people use to do their own chasing.
Yeah. So, I recommend OpenSnow, first of all. And yes, that is a shameless plug, but literally, I'm trying to teach my son not to say like, so I will not say like. I have created, and we have created OpenSnow for this exact reason. You can get 10, 20, 30 favorite resorts on one screen, scroll through 10-day forecasts and kind of get a very quick look at what's going on, and then see the breakdown day and night. But for people that want to really look at the models and look out even further, yes, a lot of the data is actually available for free or at low cost. So Tropical Tidbits, odd name, but they have weather data, weather models that are on there. WeatherBell is a site that person referenced. I think it might be about $20 a month. But they have literally every weather model you could ever look at. And at some point this fall, we will also have more weather models and more weather data on OpenSnow. And our goal is not to have all of this super secret fun data locked away that only Joel looks at and then isn't available on the site. Our goal is to have all of that on the site. So you could just look at the forecast, you could just read the Colorado Daily Snow, but if you wanted to dig into the models, you could do that too. So we're working on pulling some of this longer range data in. And for the super nerds out there, I'm one, so that's not a derogatory comment. There is the new American model, GFS model, now goes out to 35 days, forecast out to 35 days. So that's not to say that you should forecast a powder day at day 28 from now, but it's useful to see if there are certain trends in the forecast, stormier, colder, warmer, drier, things like that. So those are all the things that I'm looking at. But aside from OpenSnow, Tropical Tidbits is free. Weather Bell, I find just really consistent and having good models. CIC has a weather modeling page. They have a highly specific model around Colorado, which, I mean, just as a quick aside, can be right on, but can also kind of blow it out of the water. So I get a lot of people commenting, oh, I don't know why I even look at any other forecast. The CIC, WRF is the model, WRF, is just right on. Sometimes, but if you look at every forecast, so the model updates 4 times a day. And like any model, sometimes it's really good and sometimes it is way out to lunch. So it's just another tool in the toolbox. It's a good one, but it's just one of them.
It's that always and never thing. If either of those are choices, they're not the right answer.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So, hey, if you're just tuning in, I'm Matt here at Powder7 Ski Shop in Golden, Colorado. I'm here live with Joel Gratz of OpenSnow, and we're talking about chasing powder. This is the virtual version of our annual event. Currently, we have a promotion going on with OpenSnow. So if you sign up for the brand new all access group subscription by the 31st, Halloween this Saturday, you are entered to win a helmet and goggle package from Powder7. It's the Vantage MIPS helmet and IOMag goggle. And back to the question. So off the other resources, Instagram user asked if you base any of your predictions off of the powder buoy.
Oh, man. So let me explain the powder buoy briefly. So our government and governments around the world have put really, really big buoys out in the ocean to measure water temperature and wave height. And there are probably thousands of these around the world. And they provide great meteorological data, and they go into all the weather models. And one buoy out in the Pacific Ocean is known as the powder buoy. And people basically look at that and say, well, if there's certain wave heights on that buoy, then X number of days later, there will be a storm in California, Utah, Colorado. That's nice. But I would say that the weather models that we look at take all of that, take the powder buoy into account, and about 1 billion other data points. So it's not like the powder buoy is sitting out there by itself, wants more attention. Nobody's looking at it. I mean, it and all of its friends are an integral part of the weather forecasting process and the weather models. So, just because there's a storm out in the Pacific Ocean. So basically what the buoy does is you say, well, if there's a storm in the Pacific, it's creating a big swell in the Pacific Ocean. Storms usually move at X miles an hour, maybe 30 miles an hour. So then X number of days later, that storm will just move west to east and get into Colorado. But the thing is that storm doesn't always move west to east. It can go north, it can go south, it can peter out and slow down, it could speed up. So I don't look at the powder buoy, but I know a lot of people that just love to look at it, whether for real or for fun, and that's nice, but I don't look at it at all.
Yeah. So this is kind of like obligatory. I knew someone would want to know this. Where do you expect to see the most snow this season?
The place that only you can go, British Columbia. British Columbia. So during a La Nina season, it's generally favored. The Northwest is generally favored. So let me actually show I'm just going to share my screen here. I think I can do that. 1 second. Okay. Perfect. All right. So Matt, can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right. So this is a forecast of precipitation this year from the European model for December, January, and February. But the reason I'm showing it is not because it's the European model and happens to be the most accurate. Is it basically looks like a typical La Nina year. And the green colors, don't worry that that's rain or something like that. The green colors are just above average precipitation, which for us is generally snowfall. So don't worry about that kind of in the West. But in a typical La Nina year, the best chances for above average precipitation are in the far Northwest, British Columbia, Washington, maybe Oregon, Northern Idaho, Montana. In almost all moderate to strong La Nina years, those regions have above average snowfall. The further south you go to Tahoe, Utah, Colorado, we're just on the edge. And don't look at this model too closely and say, oh, well, there's a brown line and there's a white area and there's green. I mean, once you're on the edge, you're on the edge. And I kind of put this here, like that whole area is on the edge. There have been La Nina seasons. All of Colorado has done amazingly well. There have been La Nina seasons. Only northern Colorado has done well. There have been La Nina seasons where a lot of Colorado hasn't done well. So we're on the edge. But if you want to play the odds, and if we can travel, north and west it has the highest odds during a La Nina year.
I would appreciate it if you'd take that graphic down, because the red oval over Colorado has me bumming out. So I'm going to take your word for it.
No, it's just on the edge, man.
Like, I know,
but the deal is around here too. An average season is just great.
That's true.
Like an average season would be wonderful if we can have an average season. So, above average snowfall is nice, but the reality is storm cadence is the most important thing. If we can get 1 or 2 storms a week and we don't have long dry periods, even if our snowfall isn't well above average, it feels like a wonderful season. If you have long dry periods, even if you have a month of intense snow after that, it doesn't feel quite as good. So consistent snowfall trumps total snowfall for me usually.
Yeah. So pulling back a little bit, another question from an Instagram user. If we look, this is kind of an inevitable question, doomsday question. If we look 10 to 20 years out, do you think, or how do you think climate change will influence skiing in Colorado?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to influence skiing very much in Colorado for one reason, which is elevation. So we have really the only thing we know, we have high confidence. I don't want to say we rarely know anything for sure in science, but the thing that we have highest confidence in around climate change is that the temperatures have increased and will continue to increase. We do not have any confidence in if we're going to get more or fewer storms. That we just don't know. We don't know what precipitation is going to do. But if you just say, well, we know temperatures, or we think temperatures are going to get a lot warmer, and we might have the same amount of storms, then the logic kind of follows that the rain snow line just creeps up, right? Lower elevations have more rain events, and the snow stays at higher elevations. Luckily for Colorado, we are basically the highest elevation skiing in North America. So we will be effectively last impacted by warming temperatures. It's places that have always been on the edge between rain and snow, usually the coastal regions. Those are places that are more prone to problems with slight bits of warming. So from a long-term perspective, the only thing I can say to kind of de-risk climate is, from a skiing standpoint, is to seek the highest elevations.
Yeah, totally. So back to chasing storms a little bit, another Instagram question. What common mistakes do people make when they're trying to chase storms?
Man, that's actually a really good question that I don't think anybody's asked me before, and I've made all the mistakes. So number one mistake is leaving too late. Don't nickel and dime this. Like, oh, I can get ahead of the road closure, or I'll figure out a way around it. It's so stressful. It's far better, even though it might cost a little bit more money, be a little bit tougher logistically, to generally be roughly in the area where you want to be, or at least on the right side of the pass where you want to be, and then wake up and either go to the mountain you were thinking or go to a close by mountain. But if this applies to a lot of the Denver crew, right? But we've all made those drives at 5 a.m. or late. It's just a bummer. So waiting until the last minute, and then you're stressed, and it's not as fun as it should be, basically. So that's number one. Number two is being absolutely locked into a mountain because Joel or the forecast said that's what mountain was going to have the most snow. I mean, I hope we're right, but we're definitely not always right, and nor is any forecaster. So having flexibility in the morning to adjust your plans, or even at night when you start seeing the snow accumulating, don't get locked in. Don't just have tunnel vision. If there's another resort or area that got twice the snow and you can drive an hour and a half in the morning to go get there, go. That's awesome. I think another thing is maybe, I guess there's both sides of this. So maybe it's not a mistake, but I would say being too focused on Colorado and not looking elsewhere. I mean, Colorado's awesome, but hey, go, we're lucky. You can drive to Utah in a couple of hours or 8 hours, depending on where you are in the state. You can drive to Wyoming, you can drive to New Mexico, you can drive to Montana, you can drive to Arizona. I mean, you can drive a lot of spots, go elsewhere. But then also, the flip side of that is people have this longing for like, oh, I have to go to Japan. I have to go to British Columbia. Yeah, those are awesome bucket list trips, but the vast majority of your skiing is going to be done within a few hours of your house. So getting really good knowledge of the zones around your house, either resort or backcountry, will allow you to get out on a ton of days. And it doesn't have to be the deepest blower 18-inch day to have fun. You can go out, have a couple, backcountry turns in 6 inches and just have a lovely morning. So,
yeah. So if you could live anywhere besides Colorado, where would this be? Start the mass exodus.
Oh man, yeah. Like if friends or family or nothing else mattered, I don't mean to put that too negative, but like it was literally just about quality and quantity of snowfall. I would probably live in northern Honshu, which is the main island of Japan, or Hokkaido, Japan, for basically late December, basically January and February. Those are the 2 months. And that's not because those areas get the most snowfall in the world, but they get a ton of snow over a very short amount of time. So to put this in perspective for a lot of those areas in Japan, they get about 500 inches of snow a year, plus or minus some of the snowier areas. And Alta Snowbird in Utah, some of the snowiest areas in the United States, also get about 500 inches. So you say, well, wait, Japan's about the same as Alta and Snowbird. Why would you go to Japan? Because Alta and Snowbird get that 500 inches over about 6 or 7 months, from the fall, winter through the spring. And Japan gets that same amount of snow in about 3 months. So they get the same amount of snow in half the time. So you don't have to be a statistics nerd to know that your chances of getting snow most days are much higher because all of that snow is kind of compressed into a much shorter window. So, that said, my second choice is just living in a spot where you have awesome friends and family that want to go ski POW, and then making it happen. Because usually you can travel for POW if you need. This year is a little bit weird, but hopefully we get back into it.
Have you gotten to ski Honshu and Hokkaido?
I have never skied Honshu. It's on the list. I've skied Hokkaido twice. Hokkaido is the northern island in Japan. It is amazing, but I would also say a couple caveats. Hokkaido in general is not very steep. So if you like it steeper, stick on the main island. If you like maybe slightly better chances of colder, kind of deeper powder with a little bit mellower terrain, the northern island's great. The other thing I'll say is that it snows a lot in Japan, but that does not guarantee that it snows every day of your trip. And that is a long way to go with super high expectations. So just again, if you can't chase and you have to dial these trips in, months in advance, which most of us have to when you're flying that far away, just dial back the expectations a little bit because it just may not snow a lot. And the other thing is, I would say, if you can, go on a guided trip that will chase powder for you. There are a lot of these trips around. Well, they'll take in a bus wherever it snows the most that day, within reason in your area. And that's just because, just like here, Japan, there are different wind directions that favor different mountains, and one mountain gets more snow than another in a certain weather pattern. And it's really hard to figure that out kind of as an amateur. And it took me years to figure it out, even as a kind of professional weather forecaster. So if you go on the powder chasing trips, they'll try to take care of all that for you and give you the best chance to find POW.
Right on. So if you're just joining us or you joined us recently, again, this is Matt with Powder7. We're here at Powder7 World Headquarters in Golden, Colorado. I like to call it World Headquarters.
That's great, man. Yeah.
We ship all over the world. So we're here with Joel Gratz of OpenSnow, talking Chasing Powder 101. We at Powder7 are running a promotion with OpenSnow. If you sign up for the brand new all access group subscription by Saturday, you are entered to win a helmet goggle kit from Smith, courtesy of Powder7. A couple housekeeping items for you. So diving back into it, Joel, do you ever miss powder days because you are a powder forecaster from an Instagram user?
Not directly. I miss powder days because I am obsessed with the technology and the business. And sometimes from a family perspective, it just doesn't make sense for me or us to rush around for another powder day with the stress. The most days I skied was the year I quit my job, which is back in 2010. I skied about 80 days that year, and most of them being powder days. Now nobody should feel bad for me. I average solidly 40 to 50 really good days a year. But I'm trying to, I guess, balance out my life a little bit and try to get out skiing a little bit more, even on days that aren't epically deep, and just kind of enjoy all the even moderate days rather than trying to time it for just those kind of super deep, super special days. Because, sometimes you go out on the moderate days and you get a couple extra snow squalls, and all of a sudden you're skiing much fluffier, deeper snow than you expected. So.
Because you showed up.
Because you showed up. That's right.
Yeah. So was that previous job, was that in meteorology, or what led you into meteorology and OpenSnow?
Yeah. So I got obsessed with weather when I was about 4 years old, and my parents took me skiing at Shawnee Mountain in northeastern Pennsylvania, 700 vertical feet of pure adrenaline. I say that mockingly and lovingly because growing up there, from age 4 to age 18, it's all the skiing I really knew. And it was awesome. And I had a great time racing and instructing. But I got into weather because I needed it to snow. It needed to be cold so I could ski. And so I got just obsessed with weather in elementary school. And most meteorologists know from a very early age that they want to be meteorologists. So I went to school for meteorology at Penn State, moved to Colorado for graduate school. That previous job, I was an analyst at a hurricane and earthquake insurance company, which was kind of my dream job, aside from this, because I went to school for both business and meteorology. So it was a great mix of the two. And it was a great company based here in Boulder called ICAT. But eventually I just started doing this weather forecasting thing on the side as a hobby with some friends. And some people liked it. I wrote more people liked it. And I was like, this is really fun. We're going to give this a go.
Yeah. Yeah. A little fun behind the scenes, actually. The first time I ever met Joel, and I feel like I brought this up, I still don't remember if you remember, but I was testing skis for Outside and Mountain magazines in like 2013. And you were just there as like this guy with this new thing, and he's the powder guy. And I was like, what? That sounds awesome. So do you remember what was your first powder day?
Oh, I remember it.
You got it.
Yep. I was on a trip to Alpine Meadows with some friends from college from Penn State. We had a friend that was on the ski team that grew up at Alpine and had a house out there. So I went out with a buddy of mine. We were both East Coast racers to visit our friend who lived out in Alpine. And it was, I feel like it was maybe December 2001. And it was a good December. Sometimes December can be shaky, right? Is there early season snow or not? But this was a really good December. And there was about a foot of new snow at Alpine. And we got to the top of the mountain, skied. It's probably just an innocuous, open, delightful powder pitch. I must have fallen 10 or 15 times. I mean, I don't think I had fallen, for years prior to that. Fell 10 or 15 times because I was on race skis. I was on 160 slalom, tiny underfoot race skis because I didn't know any different coming from the East Coast. But I was pretty hooked at that point. I was like, wait a second, I can't ski it right now, but this is awesome. And so that hooked me, and I was searching for powder ever since.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your favorite snow word or
dendrite?
What?
Dendrite.
Oh.
So dendrite is here. Let me.
Oh, no way! Do you have a dendrite slide?
Oh well. Oh boy. Hold on one second. Dendrite snowflake here. I'm getting it. So the dendrite. Here we go. So the dendrite snow morphology diagram. Here we go. You thought that was nerdy. Like snow morphology. Crazy. So let me share my screen here. 1 second. Okay. My computer's about to take off, which is when you're sharing your screen correctly. There we go. So the dendrite. So this is a graphic showing all the different types of snowflakes that can fall from clouds. And it's based on moisture in the atmosphere and temperature. So along the bottom of the graphic is temperature, warmer on the left, colder on the right. And then the y-axis up and down is more moisture at the top, less moisture at the bottom. So generally the best powder skiing, not always, but generally, is made up when you have these big stellar dendrites, the big flake right in the top middle of that graphic. That is generally the best flake for skiing, because when they fall on each other, if it's not very windy, there's a lot of airspace in between those flakes. And so what you're skiing is really air with just some snow that fluffs up. So that's quite fun. So that's a stellar dendrite, takes a certain moisture and temperature profile for it to fall. But
break that down for people who might be confused or unable to.
Absolutely.
We're talking
yeah, because it's pretty small, for sure.
It's about 5 below 0 Fahrenheit through maybe 15-ish.
Yeah, so really the sweet spot is about 0 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and the most moisture you can possibly get. And this is the temperature above mountaintop in the cloud where the snowflake is being produced, which usually for our purposes is only a few thousand feet above the mountaintop, or even very, very close to mountaintop. So the reality is mountaintop temperatures around 10 to 15 degrees mean that temperatures in the cloud are often around 0 to 10. So mountaintop temperatures around 10 to 15 degrees plus or minus, with a ton of moisture, enough wind to force the air to hit the mountain and rise and create clouds, but not enough wind to break the snowflakes apart when they fall. But this is the best one. You know, one of the challenges with this is that with forecasting this is that the computer weather forecast models do a pretty good job forecasting temperatures. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. They do a pretty good job forecasting wind direction and wind speed. They don't do a very good job forecasting the exact moisture level. And they don't do a very good job forecasting the exact precipitation amount. So the moisture is really the key here. You can have all the factors align, the right wind direction, the right temperature, but if the moisture is just a little off, you're not going to get these kind of big stellar dendrites.
So is that moisture measurement snow water equivalent? I know a lot of people talk about that out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is mostly just measuring moisture in the atmosphere. So how much moisture is floating along at 10, 15,000 feet and then hitting that mountain, forced to rise, make a cloud and fall. So, you know, the models can tell you if it's going to be a sunny-ish day or a cloudy-ish day, but, you know, how much exact moisture is going to be at the 12,000 foot level as that air hits a mountain peak and is forced to rise, that's where the models can be a little bit off. And we notice it because, you know, maybe the snow forecast doesn't quite come to fruition. But
yeah, cool. Well, we've gotten through our questions from our Instagram users. We had one more from a Powder7 boot fitter who really wants to know if you use boot heaters.
You know, and I saw that on the list. So interestingly, I now have heated socks. So by the way, I just need to put this out there. I was an East Coast racer growing up, which means the majority of the time we're standing on the side of the hill, not doing anything, gatekeeping and freezing our toes off. So my toes get exceedingly cold on any day that's below about 45 degrees. I'm also the person that has a 0 degree sleeping bag when we're camping and it's 50 degrees outside. So I am a cold individual. So I have sock heaters basically. And that's what I use, because that way I can use them for skiing, but I can also use them if we go just hiking or something like that. And I'm so cold, my feet are so cold that I have these sock heaters. But I usually, if any day is under, call it 15 or 10 degrees, and I want to stay out most of the day, I'll put another disposable heater on the top of my foot, so that now I have the toe heaters from the sock and the toe heater, for the disposable toe heaters too. So
Annabelle's mind. She's our boot fitter who asked that question.
and so, you know, probably to the disdain of her and like most boot fitters, most people would probably say my boots are a little loose if I can fit all of that stuff in there. But it's kind of just a necessity, so that I can feel my toes throughout the day. So
are your heated socks Bluetooth operated?
You know, they have that feature, but I don't use that. I just kind of set it, you know, at 1 or 2 level or whatever, and let it ride. And I only knew about them because I was on a guided trip and we had some downtime. We asked the guide, you're outside skiing literally every day, 8 hours. What's your favorite piece of gear? And she said, heated socks. Like, whoa, really? That exists? So I know a lot of people love the heaters and the boots or whatever, but for me, I've had these heated socks, and they work pretty well, and you can wash them too, so they don't like super stink.
Like boot liners.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of stink, but like not super stink.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I've got one more kind of two-parter for you in case you're just joining us in time for this grand finale. Matt here at Powder7. We're with Joel Gratz of OpenSnow, talking Chasing Powder 101. So we had a very existential question here, Joel.
Oh wow! Should have gotten a beer.
I'll ask you that question, then you can kind of segue from that into anything else relevant that you don't think we hit for Chasing Powder. Floor is yours. But who is Joel Gratz?
I saw that question on the list, and I didn't know if that was existential or somebody that just didn't know what OpenSnow was. Both are fine. Both are totally fine. So who is Joel Gratz? I get unreasonably excited about snow. And weather. I have since, that is the defining characteristic. I have a boyhood curiosity and emotional response to snow and weather models and technology, the same as I did when I was 6 years old. I can't sleep. I'm excited. I'm digging into more data. I took paper weather records when I was growing up in Pennsylvania. It was a sickness from an early age. And so I love it. I get excited about it. But I think the other thing that at least has kept me going is that I'm maybe diversified to a little bit of a fault in that I really love weather, but I also love the business aspect of running the business. And I also love the skiing aspect of getting out there. And I think if I only had one of those things, like I only skied or I only ran the business or I only forecasted, I'd be a little, bored's maybe the wrong word, but wanting for a little bit more. But this kind of keeps me on my toes. So I can do all of it. And I'm just, as my grandmother used to say, I'm tickled to death that I get to do the thing that I really love to do. I didn't know growing up that I was going to be a snow forecaster and create a snow business website. But I kind of knew growing up that I was going to do something with weather and maybe was trying to do something unique with technology. So just kind of super thankful that it all worked out.
So Open Summit, the new non-snow, has given you a way to do this year round.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna, and so actually one of the things I've never really done before at talks is, like, we've talked about all these aspects of meteorology and all these kind of nerdy things, but I haven't necessarily gone through the services that we offer. And I find, this is not necessarily just a promotional plug, but I find that a lot of people maybe use one aspect of OpenSnow or Open Summit and don't realize a bunch of the other stuff that we do. And so I just wanted to show, and since you talked about Open Summit, let me just show a few things really quickly. Get this guy out of the way. So this is Open Summit, and it works a lot like OpenSnow in that it's built for hiking, and you can put in point locations. So I'm going to go to the Grand Canyon next week on a random last-minute adventure. So I have point locations from the National Park Center and the North Rim and down at the bottom. And so I can see if there's been precipitation recently. I can see high lows. And then I think the most useful part of Open Summit, or one of the useful parts, is these icons here of precipitation, lightning, and wind. So they can very quickly show by a green, yellow, red scale if I should worry about any of these. And this is probably the most boring place that I've showed you because I just have no problems. I'm looking at the hourly forecast here. There's zero lightning risk. There's almost there's no rain. There's light winds. There's almost no cloud cover. So let's go to a spot that actually has more weather. And I'm going to go to this forecast radar map, and I'm going to zoom out here across the United States because this works across the United States for a bunch of point locations. And so here you can see this is the forecast radar for the next 18 hours. So just going forward in time, it's probably a little choppy at home, but I think you get the drift. So there's some precipitation moving through the Northeast. So if I just jump into one of these points here that looks like there might be some precipitation now or soon. So this is pretty cool. Oh, and I just happened to say Killington Peak. So that's useful. So this is pretty neat. So we have a little thing up here that says snow fell in the last hour. Trails might be snowy. Maybe not a big deal. Obviously, if you live there, you can just look out the window. But if you're going to travel to hike for a couple hours, you can get a quick idea of what the recent weather was like, which was just light snow there at Killington. But then here you can see, at least from a hiking standpoint, what my risk levels are. And you can see that, here on Friday, high risk for precipitation, no risk for lightning, but the wind has a little yellow icon. So I'll look over here on wind, and it does start really strong, about 25 miles an hour early in the morning and then decreasing. So this is how I use OpenSummit when I'm going to, hike the Grand Canyon down here. I'm paying attention to the forecast and trying to see what's coming down the pike. So that's OpenSummit. OpenSnow really quick. We brought all those same map views to OpenSnow, and I'm just going to bring this up here. Whoa, super zoomed out. So this is a pretty cool layer. This is snow depth, estimated snow depth across southern Canada and the United States. And I would call this very good to point you in the direction because it's estimated snow depth. It's not correct usually down to the inch, but it will definitely show you areas that have a lot more snow than other areas. And so if you zoom down here into Colorado, you can see there's 2 areas that have the most snow, really 3, kind of up by Cameron Pass, which is great to help slow the fires, down by Wolf Creek, and then also on the southern Sangre de Cristo range. There's a West Spanish Peak here, and there's an old lost ski area of Cuchara right in here. And actually, I'll show off a little bit. I'm going to change the base map to satellite, and I notice I'm zooming in here. It's a little hard to see, so I'm going to go down here in the lower right and turn the opacity down a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to try to, live demos are hard, but at some point, there it is. There is an old lost ski area. There it is, right here. So you can kind of zoom in and see those runs. So I can then, so knowing that that's there, I can turn the opacity back up a little bit and see that, hey, they might have 1.5 feet of snow or so down there. So pretty cool use case for the snow depth map. And then the other thing that's pretty neat, I'm just going to turn that layer off really quick, is that, and I'm going to turn on over here on the lower right, I'm going to turn on the points. So you can see these points of the ski areas across the state. I'm just going to, let's see, I'll go into Keystone. So we've overlaid runs and lifts on this map as well. So pretty cool to be able, and topo lines. So pretty cool to be able to see all of this on one map. And then, of course, you can overlay this with radar or forecast radar or anything like that. Finally, one of the things this is what I do when I come to OpenSnow, is that I have my favorite screen, and there's not much going on right now, but you can see that storm starting around Sunday that's just starting to show up in the models. But I can get a quick view of some of my favorite mountains in just one quick screen. I don't have to bookmark 10 pages. I can see that Grand Targhee is going to get a little bit more snow earlier than we are from the storm.
I can see what CMH.
What's that? Well, I might be going to CMH this year if I can actually get across the border. Yeah. We have a great trip planned. So CMH offers a fusion trip, is what they call it. So it's a heli ski lodge in British Columbia, but later in the season you can split your trip. So we have 3 days that we're doing regular heli skiing, and then 2 days that we're doing touring. So they basically drop you off somewhere in the morning, and you just skin around the mountains all day, and then they pick you up in a heli and take you back. So I'm super excited to go and have very low realistic chances of actually going this year, but they're going to do really well and jump in there. And then we can see other places up in Canada, Banff Sunshine over in Lake Louise area. They're going to start getting snow middle of next week. And then also I have a point over here for Europe and over in Japan. And there's another view, because people will say, well, that's nice that you have these day-by-day forecasts, but nights are really important because that's when the snow falls. Couldn't agree with you more. So if you click the 10-day forecast view over here, then everything's broken down by day and night, and you can get a more granular picture of where and when the snow is going to fall. So we have that, and then all the cams. I am a sucker for all of this. I put all the cams, your favorite cams, all in one screen, so you can take a really quick look through and see what's happening where. And then also, of course, you can tap the daily snow button and then see one-click access to all the top daily snows. So that's a quick look at how I use OpenSnow. I mean, I built this to help simplify my powder chasing life. So hopefully it helps a lot of other folks too.
So do you have moments where you just sit back and use your own service and feel pretty stoked, or are you always looking for ways to make it better?
No, I mean, it's the curse of the scientist, the scientist powder chaser, is that I am always looking. I mean, this past storm that we had in Colorado on Saturday night and Sunday, I mean, there are no resorts even open. There's basically no snowpack, basically nobody skiing. I mean, I know a few people skinned up and around, but it's very early season. I was just obsessed with all the weather models, thinking about if we could create the best combination of models, how would we do this? No, I don't think I'm ever going to, rest on my laurels, at least not for the next couple of years. But what it's useful for is that I spend hours a day looking at this data for Colorado, but I don't spend hours a day looking at this data for Japan until I go there, or CMH until I go there. So it's really useful for me just to scroll down and be like, oh, cool, CMH Galena is going to get, maybe a foot of snow next week. Got it. I don't need to dig into 12 models to understand that. I have a pretty good estimate there. And so, yeah, I do use the service, and to look at all the cams in the morning and to build my daily snow, what I write about, that's the key component of looking through everything and trying to piece together the weather story. So I'm, what was that like old, it's like the hair loss commercial? Like I'm not only like the owner, I'm also a client or something like that, from the guy. But like that's kind of the deal. Like we didn't just create this. Like this is also a product that we use.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. You've got the whole Powder7 staff, our owner Jordan, and skiers across the country tuned in. Thanks for joining us, Joel.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for setting it up.
Go at virtual Powder7 events.
Yep.
I think the tech worked. Morgan, my helper, seems to be smiling. So one more time, this was live with Joel Gratz from Powder7. I'm Matt. We are running a promotion with OpenSnow. If you sign up for the brand new all access group subscription by Saturday, you will be entered to win fancy schmancy helmet goggle kit from Smith. This is the IO Mag and the Vantage MIPS. Awesome products from Smith. And you get an awesome service from OpenSnow. Sounds like a win-win-win. We're going to sign off for the evening. If anybody's skiing Wolf Creek this weekend, happy turns. Maybe I'll see you there.
And if anybody's skiing Wolf Creek tomorrow, Friday midday, look for me and our family on the Bunny Hill.
Well, Joel's going to escape for a few rocky powder laps.
Something like that. Yeah.
All righty. Thanks, Joel. Have a great season, everybody.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
Cheers.